So today I'll be reading the introduction to A Manual of Music, Its History, Biography, and Literature, illustrated with chronological charts, including biographies and portraits of eminent composers with characteristic specimens from their works, carefully analyzed and explained. A dictionary of technical and proper names with definitions and simplified pronunciations. Devised and edited by W.M. Derthick, author of Chronological Charts. Revised Improved Edition. The Manual, Published Company, 415-417 Dearborn Street, Chicago. So one thing I need to mention is I actually have not read this myself. See, there's the it's horrible lighting. My bad about that. Oh gosh, sorry. I do apologize for that. I got to figure out the angles here. This was written in 1888. Like I was trying to state right now, I haven't actually read this myself, so this will be me reading it for the first time. So I may stop for commentary. Also, it's a new setup for me. I got to figure out how I'm gonna sit to read this. So that being said, the introduction to this introduction. Just figure out. There we are. I apologize for all that. The present work represents an earnest effort, aided and enlightened by the advice of eminent musicians, to furnish in a convenient and comparatively inexpensive form information and material which are indispensable to the fullest comprehension and enjoyment of musical art. Among its most important features is a clear, concise, and accurate narrative of the history of music from the earliest period to which it may profitably be traced to the present time, a series of 6 chronological charts which afford an analytical survey of the entire domain of musical effort and development, collating and classifying all important data into epochs, periods, countries, and schools, thus greatly facilitating ready reference, and bringing within the mental grasp a greater number of related facts that would be possible without these charts. Portraits of the most prominent musical characters from Orlandus Lassus and Palestrina to Craig and Moskowski. Biographical and critical notes of more than 50 of these masters presented in chronological sequence. Analysis, both general and detailed, of 200 representative musical selections prepared especially for this volume by the most eminent theorists and critics. Characteristic specimens from the works of the great composers carefully selected from historical and artistical illustrations. Dictionaries of technical terms and phrases, of artists and composers of works, instruments, and institutions. Was that one sentence? Such in brief is the plan of the work, and the editor believes that those who are familiar with the practical needs of the musician and the amateur will readily recognize in each of these departments a direct and valuable aid to the attainment of mature musicianship. A knowledge of the history of musical art, of the lives, labors, and achievements of those who have left upon its pages the lasting impress of their genius, is a truly essential to any intelligent interpreter of music, or to one who, without the ability to perform upon an instrument, would enter the mystic realm of tones and be susceptible to its transposing vision of beauty. As is knowledge of Roman history to one who would successfully impersonate a character in Julius Caesar, or in the capacity of auditor would appreciate its dramatic excellence of fidelity. The successful experience of such artists as von Bülow and Henschel confirm this truth. Probably butchered that. Both have acquired the highest eminence in their chosen sphere, principally through the accurate and extensive knowledge which they possess. For the latter had but a medium voice, and the hands of the former would be considered by many a serious obstacle to successful piano playing. But history, analysis, harmony, and aesthetics unlocked for them the door of art, and they have penetrated to the innermost temple. I have not been paying attention to the screen, so I apologize for that. Every musical composition which is worthy of study is to a certain extent a mirror of the age and country which produced it. Intellectual, moral, religious, and even political conditions have given to it a certain coloring and spirit which make it distinctly an expression of that particular epoch. I'm not even sure I'm saying that. Epoch. At one time, there was no metrical divisions. At another time, it was all in canonic style. Then euphonious melody came into vogue, and I don't like the way that flowed. At one time, there was no metrical divisions. At another time, it was all in canonical style. Then euphonious melody came into vogue, and this led to harmonization by means of chords. Gradually, the music became more significant and consequently required greater variety of expression. Since the creation of Beethoven's last works, the tempo rubato style has largely prevailed through only among certain artists. Chopin, Schumann, and Liszt employ this ad libitum manner, but on the other hand, Kramer, Mendelssohn, Moscheles, Thalberg, and others seldom made any radical deviation from the fixed movement. History and analysis are the only means we have of showing these various styles and pointing to the evil and inconsistencies, unfortunately now too prevalent, of playing all music alike. Aside from its want of fidelity and consistency, it is extremely monotonous to listen to a recital in which the pianist interprets the classical works of the 18th century in the same rhapsodical style which only applies to certain compositions of the 19th century. I probably should have read this before I try to read it for you guys. To myself, that is. Where are we? Let's get the lighting better before I go. Various shades of feeling, from indignant anger to gentle approval, from darkest despair to brightest pleasures, constitutes the most frequent themes of musical expression. Sensations produced by a storm, a sunset, light and shadow, vast expanses, the effects of cold and heat, supernatural agencies, mystic fancies and dreamland wanderings, all leave their impress upon the mind. And it is these impressions which have been stamped upon the pages of the classical and romantic music in which we have endeavored to aid the student in discovering. I wasn't even pointing the right spot. Apologies. Without entering the purely imaginative descriptions of the meaning of musical sounds, we have endeavored to captivate the fancy of stimulate the interest of music students by presenting such facts and suggestions as will, we believe, lead to a higher appreciation and clearer discernment of real inner beauties, the soul of music. As an illustration, let us select Mendelssohn's beautiful duetto from the Songs Without Words. After the technical difficulties have been overcome, the pupil should know something about the composer's intentions or idea in this piece. It represents, as one of our contributors has discovered, that makes sense. So they probably had a lot of contributors to this book. As one of our contributors has discovered, a love scene between a lady and a gentleman, or if you will, a soprano and a baritone. Maybe I misinterpreted that. I took that as a lot of people contributed to this book. After a measure of prelude, the lady sings her opening sentence. To this, the gentleman responds with much more seriousness and ardor. But the lady continues to treat his earnestness with, antiquated word, coquettish levity and apparent indifference. Finally, the dialogue becomes more animated, and sharp dissonance between the voices indicate a conflict of sentiments. But in the last part, both voices unite in singing the gentleman's melody, and we know that love, perseverance, and gallantry have won the day. The application of this brief program to the different parts of the composition may be easily pointed out or left to the aptitude of the pupil. That it will increase the interest and aid the performance, there can be no question. For the most sagacious teachers, sagacious, I'm assuming it means sage-like, teachers have frequently testified to the benefit accruing from these poetical or even imaginative interpretations wherever they are possible. Another attractive and valuable feature of the manual consists in the eclectic and diversified character of the analysis, critical reviews, etc. emanating as they do from the most accomplished composers, theorists, performers, and critics. The information pertaining to the various subjects of discussion throughout the book is, therefore, not the opinion of one person who would naturally be prejudiced against certain schools of nationalities, but the different topics have generally been assigned to such writers as would be most likely to explain them ably and discuss them impartially. The encyclopedic dimensions of the manual rendered this policy necessary, and its manifold advantages in the way of greater Catholicity and broader culture greatly outweigh the isolated cases of seeming contradiction which necessarily result from multiplied literary labor. The inconvenience which may be caused in certain causes by the united effort will, however, be found to be nothing more serious than the expression of two different opinions concerning a particular composer or his work. But instead of offering merely a solitary flower, we present a whole bouquet, a diadem of precious stones in place of a single jewel. I apologize, my GoPro overheated, so I have to start this paragraph over. For a study of Rococo, classical and modern music in all its phases, the manual offers not only the best, but the only available material. I just want to highlight, manual is a capitalized there, so this guy thought very highly of this book. Each particular master is here surrounded with all the aids which art and ingenuity could provide. First, we have in the historical narrative the relative place and position which he occupied in the development of music. Then he appears before us in the counterfeit presentment. The personal biography follows the portrait, giving particular information and a critical estimate of style and character. This is succeeded by a representative composition and notation, and lastly, his composition is accompanied by an aesthetical and technical analysis showing the form of construction, the spirit and character of the music, and the manner in which it should be practiced and performed. If all musical students could have the benefit of such advantages in the study of high-class compositions, who will dispute the charlatanism who will soon disappear, and that a sense of the true and the beautiful would permeate every honest home in the land? But in too many cases, the only aim is technique, and nothing else seems to be comprehended. And after that is acquired, what does it signify? A casket without a jewel? A bush without a flower or foliage? A body without a soul? Those so educated, or rather, students who are thus uneducated, have no conception of the significance of musical tones and rhythms. They can tell you nothing of the composer whom they attempt to interpret, and have no knowledge of the peculiar style of music which was in vogue during this or that epoch. I should know that word, sorry. They are blind to the light which history sheds on these important matters, and are unable to analyze even the structural outlines of the music. The great need, therefore, is for information, knowledge, and enlightenment, for everything which will throw light upon the hidden meaning of this psychological phenomenon called music, and enable us to penetrate into its mystic circle. Technique and technique spelled different back in the day. Technique and instruction books are but the elementary means to the desirable end. Nay, they are not even complete as elementary steps without some accompanying aid from history, biography, and analysis. No child who receives music lessons is too young to appreciate a pretty story like that of the little Mozart and the Emperor, or to know that a period is constructed out of phrases and sections. An endless, some rational attempt is made at an early stage to invest the music with a special charm and significance. Pupils are not apt to look upon it as simply an agreeable noise, and to treat it as a mere mechanical accomplishment. Too often the very essence and spirit remain undiscovered by those who spend their days chasing a mere shadow which has no substance, content with all shell because they know not of the kernel it contains. The student has endeavored to become acquainted with musical history, has been met at the very commencement of his inquiries by the most formidable obstacles. Available sources of information have been found meager and unreliable. The few historical works in the English language are so biased by sectional prejudice and betray such extreme ignorance of the needs of the student that they are wholly unsatisfactory. The history of music is essentially a history of a few men of genius who, by their zealous and self-sacrificing devotion to art, their courageous disregard for traditional rule and prevailing custom, their unconditional rejection of that which was objectionable in the usage of their predecessors, or pernicious in the practice of their contemporaries, have enriched its literature with new and improved forms and established the principal period of its annals. Sorry. We have, therefore, in addition to the general history of music, made these prominent characters the subject of this special essay in which their individual characteristics are presented to the mind of the reader, which much greater clearness and perspicuity than would have been possible in continuous narratives. As it is the purpose of the work to serve the requirements of students from the beginning to the completion of their musical studies, the illustrations which accompany these sketches represent every grade of difficulty, from the simple song form to the complex sonata, and every variety of style, from the works of Bach and other representations of the polyphonic school, whose compositions are principally remarkable for the beauty of form, to the highly imaginative and romantic specimens for modern writers in which the emotional content is the ruling element. To enable the student to correctly interpret the works of these great writers, each selection has been carefully analyzed, thus affording an opportunity to study musical form and phraseology in its highest application. The chronological chart with which the history is illustrated requires a word of explanation. They occupy a position in the work exactly analogous to that of the maps in a geography. They afford an analytical view of the whole subject. Each epoch in the history of the various departments of musical art, from the advent of the Christian era to the present time, is here clearly defined with the names of those identified with it, the date of birth and date of death, their positions in time and place, their comparative prominence, and the form of character of their works. In brief, these charts constitute in themselves a complete history of music, revealing the sequence and showing the relation of each fact to every other fact. The pronouncing dictionary of names forms an important feature of the work. Our observation has convinced us that such a work is greatly needed, since only a small number of those who study music are able to pronounce correctly the proper names and technical terms found in all standard compositions. The vocabulary is quite exhaustive, and the pronunciations are given in accordance with musical usage and have been approved by the best authorities. The entire work is the result of many years of diligent research in the wide domain of music history and literature, and of intimate association with those whom it is designed to benefit. Music is a synonym for taste and refinement, and those who do not possess the natural skills which are essential to the successful artist should at least be able to discover intelligently upon the subject and enter appreciatively into the performance of those who are more favored. We believe also that all parents should acquire such information as the historical portion of the works presents, that they may assist in directing the steps of their child in the ways of artistic excellence. Wow, that was just the intro. And I guess with the intro, I will do also the preface to the revised edition. Sorry about the lighting, give me just a moment. Because it is just one page before we start with the actual chapters. So this is the preface to the revised edition. Apologize for that. Just getting used to this setup. In announcing this new and improved edition of the Manual of Music, the editor experiences a lively sense of pleasure and acknowledgement of the true principal factors in its success. Firstly, to the eminent musicians whose manifold experiences and talents have enabled him to present such a work as this to the musical world. Secondarily, but none the less heartily, he recognizes the generosity and intelligence of the music-loving public, which has shown such full appreciation of this elaborate and almost colossal attempt to supply what is most needed in the pursuit of the highest musical ideals. The editor has previously acknowledged the assistance afforded him in preparing the previous edition. Particular mention is therefore made at the direct contributors to this volume with titles of the subjects upon which they have furnished analysis. J.S. Dwight, Mendelssohn's Calm Sea and Prosperous Voyage. C.L. Cappen, Sonata is that opera? 39, von Weber, Overture to Oberon, Concerto. J.B. Kramer, Clement Tetedo, Gounod's Operatic Works. F.G. Gleason, Wagner's Music Dramas. B. Listman, Paganini. Bernhard Mollenhauer, Sprach als Virtuoso and Composer. T.P. Courier, von Bülow, I believe. G.O.P. Upton with Meyerbeer's Les Huguenots, or in English, Les Huguenots. C.B. Cady, Beethoven's Opus's 1367 and 131. Emil Liebling, Thalberg's compositions. J.S. Van Cleve, Czerny's Etudes. E.P. Perry, Chopin's Ops 35 and 57. W.S.B. Matthews, Brahms' Hungarian Rhapsodies. Hummel's La Bella Capriccioso. Gates' Children's Christmas and Sonata in D. Op. 106. E.D. Campi, Bellini's Dramatic Works, A Study of Verdi. A.J. Goodrich, Beethoven's Op. 53, Grieg's Norwegian Dances and Peer Gynt, Handel's Suites and 12 Easy Pieces, easy peasy. Haydn's Creations in Oxford Symphony. Raff's Compositions, Clara Schumann's Piano Works, Saint-Saëns, or Sans, Danse Macabre, Berlois Works, or Berlioz, I'm sorry, I don't know. Kramer's Etudes numbers 10, 12, 13, and 17. Field's Nocturnals 3, 14, and 15. Additional Faust analysis. Mozart's Requiem. Ballet music for Rubinstein's Faramer. Schumann's Papillon. Oh, that's butterfly in French. Papillon. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it is. Spohr additional analysis. Rossini's Overtures. Weber Concertstruct. Op. 79. Claremont's First Grand Sonata in C. Barcarolles by Goddard, and several other analyses. In the preparation of this dictionary of terms, authors, and works, the editor has been assisted by Messrs. J.C. Fillmore and W.S.B. Matthews, who have for some time past been engaged in extensive research, especially in the interest of this work. The old dictionaries haven't been entirely discarded. The pronunciation is given of proper names as well as of technical terms. In the Dictionary of Works, Instruments, and Institutions may be found many facts not elsewhere obtained, as for example, the origin and date of Field's nocturnes. In fact, much new and useful information is epitomized in each of these various dictionaries. In perfecting the historical charts, it was thought best to include a series of didactic questions in place of the names and native artists and musicians. One reason for this change was that in the limited amount of space at our command in the volume for the American department, it necessarily contained so many omissions as to be both incomplete and inconsistent. And the editor finally decided to make no mention of the native musicians in the work, but to devote a future volume to their presentation and consideration of the most worthy achievements. It is scarcely necessary to say that in the present edition, much time expense has been expended in general revision with a view to improvement and perfection, and that historical data has, as far as possible, been brought down to the present time. The Manual of Music is therefore offered to the American people with feelings of confidence and satisfaction, which, on account of the eminent contributors to its pages, may be freely expressed. The editor. And I just got all the hairs on my arms stand up. Not sure why. Maybe because I'm realizing how badass this is going to be. I mean, it took me what? Well, beginning of this recording, 14 minutes, and I was probably another 15 minutes before that just to get through 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of this book. So it took me half hour to read 4 pages from page 5 to 8. So I got quite a task at hand, but I mean, you could tell by the way just the introduction is written. This is, like I stated in the first video in the series, just a work of history that I feel needs to be shared with the world. This can't be lost to history. I mean, I didn't look it up. I mean, maybe this is available as a PDF online or someone's already read it. I don't know. But I haven't read it myself, so I figured I might as well read it with you guys. I hope you enjoy that. I'll work a lot on being able to get the lighting better and holding this camera better, being able to read and stand and hold the camera at the same time. Next time around, I'll start on these chapters. Hopefully get through all the chapters all the way to the composers. If not, maybe we'll do a few chapters at a time. But I hope you enjoy that. And yes, tomorrow we'll start with the history of music, chapter 1, music of the ancients. This is gonna be fascinating because I did briefly go through this, and it just goes to all the different civilizations. I believe this is going to have some amazing knowledge in here. Stay tuned. Have a great day.